Drawing is an intrinsic aspect of human life. From childhood, we become familiar with the scribbling and drawing of patterns in the sand, on our bodies, and on other surfaces. For some, these rudimentary acts of depicting shapes, images, and forms end as distant childhood memories. For others, they become keener as they get older. Drawing can be an inborn talent or a learned skill. Whatever the case, it serves as a channel of self-expression and the creation of a visual or aesthetic experience. The drawings of Chijioke Onuora and George Odoh are remarkable demonstrations of this human tendency to draw. Chijioke Onuora is a draftsman, a sculptor, a painter, and a writer. Born in Anambra State, he forayed into the world of art at the early age of 6, drawing on any available surface he could find and converting his mother's kitchen walls to drawing canvases. In 1968, he wrote his first letter to his father, who was then serving in the Biafran army. Amidst a cluster of alphabets was a pencil drawing of a child with outstretched arms. Even as a child, Onuora's drawing ability brought him recognition from peers and adults alike. One peculiar incident growing up, which showcased his artistic talent, was his root exhibition of 1970, when he was in the 2nd grade. In a bid to outdraw his class teacher, whose wall illustrations were aesthetically deficient, the young Onuora audaciously and skillfully drew his version of the teacher's chicken, right next to hers. The ensuing applause from classmates drew the attention of peers and teachers from other classes. This led to some embarrassment on his teacher's part and a thorough beating from his mortified mother.
As a child, I loved to draw. From the onset, we drew in groups. As children, while we played around the compound, we drew on sand, and now I've come to realize that it didn't just start. I didn't just get my recognition as a person who could make drawings when I was older. Right from the time I was quite young, the time I was describing, we will finish drawing and every person will gather around my own drawing and begin to applaud it. So as early as 4, 5, I was already known among my peers as someone who could draw. But you know, while during the Civil War, at the beginning of the Civil War, 1967, I was 5 years old, and we relocated to the village. And we had a lot of time to draw, a lot of time to play around, because it took quite some time before we began to attend classes. So my mates would gather around me as we drew anything that we could see, anything at all. Some had formulas, you know, how to draw a head, a side view of a human being. You did a C and did a wavy lines down that will represent both the nose, the mouth, and everything. But gradually, mine began to depart from the normal way other people used to draw, because I could make out a few things that were not quite right in other people's drawings. I drew on the walls. We had a kitchen that was coated with soot from cooking, so that provided a dark background for me to use chalk, white chalk on. And other walls that did not have the black soot, as I made drawings with charcoal. So as early as 1967, I was already making drawings, so that by 1968, I had the first drawing which my father recorded, or my father kept for me to see. Unfortunately, I can't lay my hands on it now, but I know I saw it when I was in secondary school, and I was doing exploits in secondary school. He brought the drawing again. It was supposed to be a letter that I wrote to him while he fought on the Biafran side. Then I discovered that it was not really a letter per se, because it just had letters scattered around a sheet of paper. But the definite thing there is the drawing of an infant with hands outstretched, as if to, greet somebody. That's the one I can recall most. There in the compound, I did drawings on the sand, and suddenly you decide to make a drawing of one big tree in the compound. Then it wasn't. I would go about, covering the entire compound with this tree to show the size of the tree. The entire frontage of our house was covered with that drawing, and I gathered it because I fought you if you dared to clean any part of the drawing that I made. So that was it. That is the earliest I can remember. Then in primary school, I did drawings for my teachers after I did what I called a rude exhibition in my grade 2. Immediately after the Civil War. I went to school, and the drawings on the wall with which we were taught things, nature study and so on, elementary science, some of those things were done by our teachers. I thought the teacher didn't do quite a good job of some of them. I could do something equally as good or better. And I tried it, and won the admiration of my classmates. Of course, I got trashed for it, and it was rude. Up till now, I can't remember where the rudeness, came from, because I just went up to do a drawing. I didn't call the people to come and hail my achievements. I just did the drawing, and that was it. So over the years, I continued to do a couple of works for them when they realized that I had the capacity to do a few of those things. In my grade 3, I was doing that. Grade 4, I began to concentrate on portraitures of African and Nigerian politicians. I know I had seen something in my father's secondary school dictionary where he drew 2 people. At the early pages, the blank page, he drew Mahatma Gandhi, and at the back page, he drew Adolf Hitler, 2 opposing human beings. And I did those drawings in ink. So these are things that empowered me and encouraged me to continue to work. So I began to do the same thing on any book I saw that had any plain page, at the beginning or at the end. I want to imitate what my father did with his book, on his book in secondary school. But then I was in primary school. In primary 5, I was doing, that time I wasn't doing Ojukwu. We didn't have, he appeared to be a rebel to some people. We did Azikiwe, the nationalist, Awolowo, Jomo Kenyatta, even Nyemeri of Sudan. I remember I made a drawing of him. It was much later in life that I got interested in doing, making portraits of somebody like Ojukwu, but in my primary school, it was more of Nigerian and African politicians that I did. I made their portrait. And after primary 5, I now went into the secondary school. I didn't do 6. Okay, I made my drawings. I did my drawing. You know, initially I was thinking that pencil was my preferred medium. I worked on pencil all through my primary school. Then secondary school, I worked on pencil because, and occasionally color. We did light color drawings in secondary school because that was all I did in art, drawing and painting. And even the painting, sometimes we made light drawings that looked like watercolors. I wouldn't know whether we called it watercolors at the time, but we used such medium. But when, as soon as I was through with my secondary education and entered the College of Education, I was exposed to other medium of expression. I tried pen and ink. I tried charcoal, you know, the willow charcoal. I tried graphite. I tried even some unorthodox things. We tried that, but finally, by the time I was through with my university education, and I got in, while in the university, I saw drawings made by my drawing lecturer, Seth Anku, and he drew mostly with compressed charcoal. So I got attracted to that medium because of its the spontaneous nature, the spontaneous approach that it offered. So at the end of the day, I discovered that my preferred medium these days, when I am making a drawing that stands on its own as a drawing that could be shown or exhibited, then I'm working on compressed charcoal. But I also make drawings on cloth when I want to do batik. You know, by the time I'm putting on putting the wax, in fact, I enjoy something that is spontaneous, not something that is predetermined. Something that is spontaneous. It gives me the kick. So while doing, one of the things that took me to batik was the ability for me to quickly do something before the liquefied wax congealed. To quickly put down something and dye. So I also see my drawing going towards that angle. But if you pin me down and say, which one? I will tell you compressed charcoal and paper.
From where do you draw inspiration?
Remember at the beginning of I told you as a kid, I didn't even mention that during the Civil War, my subjects were soldiers. Besides the natural things, the trees, my siblings that I tried to draw, the next major subject were soldiers, because we saw soldiers all around us, you know, in our village environment. Then when I was in primary school, after the Civil War, and I was in primary school, I told you Nigerian politicians became the subject. When I was in secondary school, we had proper art teacher that will keep a model for us to draw. So those models, I saw drawing as an exercise that involved you putting someone and setting someone and making a drawing of that person, or making still life drawings or imaginative compositions. But when I was through with my university education, I discovered prior to the conclusion of my work and my studies in the university, I undertook my major research on art objects of Adaziani shrines. So it took me to several, both public and private shrines, and I saw authentic, original works of my people, carved works of my people in those shrines. So after I had done my written project, I took interest in the forms, the kind of forms I saw in those, what I would call, would I call it a museum, because a local museum, because it's in the shrines that those things are kept. Both the musical equipment carved out in special ways, and the images, shrine images. I saw the way my people represented those things, and it became something that influenced me. I began to make my drawings go a little abstract, and I haven't trained as a sculptor. It meant that many of my works were also touching things that bordered on sculpture. And the things I'm telling you about now are sculpture works, traditional sculpture works. I also saw paintings, uli paintings that were done on the walls of those shrines or the compounds of some of my people, the compounds in my area, Adaziani. So these two became very strong influence. And remember, I came to Nsukka to meet experimentation on uli. So to realize that I had those things around me in the village was a boost, and it aroused greater interest for me to research deeper than I have ever done on those subjects. So, simply put, my inspiration comes from those works. Then I use them to now discuss contemporary issues, politics, idioms. I like to philosophize a lot in my work, and I also like to jest a little in my drawing, because that's also in my nature to try to make people laugh without being unserious, because even while you have finished laughing and you forget the reason for you are laughing, then you would have lost the message that I put across. So my inspiration come from the objects in the shrines, the political environment that I found myself in, and beautiful things around me. I didn't mention this. Prior to being more philosophical or deeper, I was searching out for beauty. So in around 1990, early 1990s, I made drawings of women, particularly the face. I want to find out what is it that makes this one beautiful and the other one ugly. Is it the pointed nose and the flat nose? I discovered that there are some with pointed nose and they are ugly, and some with flat nose and they are beautiful. So trying to answer those questions, I made a whole lot of drawings from late 1980s to about the middle of 1990s. At the end of that, those trying to portray physical beauty began to wane, began to fade. I began to look more for inner beauty, truth in my work. Let me go back to the other one, the themes.
Okay.
For instance, if you look at my collections, you will see subjects like, or themes like ihe dị ịbụa ịbụa. Things are in twos. It's an adage in my place. It's a proverb, an axiom in my place, suggesting that things are balanced. You have man, you have woman. You have night, you have day. You have good, you have bad. So I did a lot of drawings that bordered on that, even that could have sub-themes. For instance, I have drawings like the marriage of Odoh and Ogugu. Odoh is a male deity and Ogugu is a female deity. So in some cases, I use the traditional, the knowledge I got from the traditional sculptures, wood sculptures in those shrines to, produce those drawings. So you see figures produced as if they were wooden sculptures in traditional African style. Then sometimes I clothed the figures with contemporary clothes, like Odoh wearing suit and Ogugu wearing what do they call a wedding gown, and so on. I did ihe dị ịbụa ịbụa and Odoh and Ogugu, and so I did more than 15 of those drawings at different times. Did I say more than? It should be over 20 because I go back to those themes. When I was in the College of Education, I saw watercolor. Sorry, I saw ink drawings of Obiora Udechukwu, and which he did in the 70s. One is No Water. Is it No Water? And many of the drawings he did, I loved the thing. Meanwhile, I had never met him, never knew who was Obiora Udechukwu, but I met the works and interacted with the works, and I began to work along that line. When I mentioned that I was introduced to ink drawings, it was when I saw Obiora's work. So from my second year at the College of Education, I was already working, doing my drawings in ink. Then it was interesting when I came to the University of Nigeria immediately after my NCA to do a degree, and I saw Obiora, and I told him that I knew his drawings before I knew him, So after that, another person that influenced my work was Seth Anku, a Ghanaian-born painter and fountain maker. He taught me drawing in fourth year and final year. It used to be a 5-year program in the university. And having come from the College of Education, 2 years was waived for us, and we did 3 years. So I met Anku during my fourth penultimate year, and his drawings so touched me that I said, this is the way to go. And I exhibited about 2 or 3 works done in that style during my degree exhibition. And now fate brought us together that after my graduation, I stayed in his boys' quarters for about almost a year, about 8 months, where I was doing sculptures for him. And I discovered that it was time to be free with my drawings. He provided the accommodation for me, provided me with compressed charcoal and a lot of papers, and one narrow foam and a table. And I was ready to go. And I was producing on the average, about 10 drawings per day. So you could imagine the number of drawings I churned out within a space of 8 months. It was a period in my drawing career that I will ever remember, because I lived drawing, I breathed drawing, I ate drawing, whatever, and it was compressed charcoal. And I continued to learn the possibilities inherent in that material. So these are the two artists that influenced my drawing. In addition to what we used to see of Rembrandt, Michelangelo, Leonardo, as a young, growing student artist, we tried to draw, even copy their works and see how close our drawings would be to theirs. But professionally, I think Anku stands out as the major influence in my drawing. Remember I said I saw Onuora's drawings while I was in the College of Education. Oka is no more. Then almost all my lecturers graduated from the University of Nigeria. I had Emejuo, who taught me sculpture. PN Emejuo is the person that did that big sculpture with 2 hands raised like that in the department. He taught me sculpture. Then Njelita taught me graphics. Pius Nwankwo taught me painting. Iman Okonna taught me ceramics. Ifedi Oradike taught me textile. It's only Obukwel who came later on and taught me, again influenced my ceramics. But all these people that I mentioned had uli in their works, whether they were doing graphics or painting or had uli. So from there, I was already smelling and testing uli while in the College of Education without needing to get to Nsukka. So when I landed at Nsukka 1983, everywhere was uli. Everywhere was uli. And the exposure to project writing research taking us to different places to study walls, the uli mural, traditional uli paintings on walls, taking us to shrines to look at things, taking us to festivals where we studied masquerades and their costumes. All these things became an influence. And somebody like Anku that I mentioned did not draw in uli style, but the brevity of his lines was close to what Onuora was also doing with uli, because it derived its strength from spontaneity. He could just sit down, and within 20 minutes he was done with a drawing, finished. In fact, when I learned that, I began to draw. I also discovered that in 5 minutes I could finish my drawing. So when I say I make an average of 10 drawings per day, you'll understand that if you say 5 times 10, it's only 15 minutes. So, but just wanted to share that. And the exhibitions that held within that period, the first ATKA exhibition that held at Enugu, we used to travel from Nsukka to Enugu to watch exhibitions. And these are influences. I saw a whole lot of things, including El Anachi's burnt wood that seems to point towards charcoal again that I use, because when you burn the wood, you make some aspect of, you blacken some parts of the wood, and the finish is like you have made a big drawing on panels of wood. So the Nsukka and the research on Uli, reading it, seeing other people's own, like Chijioke. I saw very few of Chijioke's drawing anyway that time, but I saw a lot of Odoh's works. I worked with somebody like Odoh Ogribe, who were quite competitive that time, that each person wanted to bring out something new. In my own class, Ogribe was there, Tony Ekedum was there, that practiced, tried to do some works on Uli, and a few others that were ahead of us. We have also people that were below us, because remember, I did my first degree here and also my second degree. So I saw when Ikwemesi was also developing as an artist, and Chijioke, and many of these people that you hear about today, Tayo Adenaike, all those people that did things. Tayo worked mainly on watercolor and ink, so very close to drawing. So I visited their exhibitions and learned a lot from them. I taught drawing as soon as I was employed in the department. I began to teach drawing. Prior to that, I operated a studio from where I did my master's. I was teaching students there, and perhaps the authorities also saw my works and what I've been doing. So as soon as I entered the services of the University of Nigeria, I began to teach drawing from the onset. I taught drawing and sculpture, and I've taught it till date. One of the things I brought into the drawing experiences of the students, their orientation, to be able to find other ways of making their marks and developing a degree of confidence in themselves, rather than following a particular set of rules. Maybe drawing, first of all, drawing from head and posing a model. I said, why not, just like we speak and we converse, couldn't we just freely make our drawings? With time, you will begin to understand the medium, and we set out making drawings in very short periods, quick drawings. First of all, did gesture drawings, but settled down to fast sketches, registering the attitude of the model very quickly, and getting them down before it begins to bog you, down. So that was one of the things we did, and I know that students will wonder whether it was possible to do a drawing and consider it finished in 10 minutes and 15 minutes instead of 2 hours, 3 hours, or 4 hours. And we tried that. I tried that with, whom did I start with? Who can I remember? Okay, I remember Izundu Nwankwo is late now. I taught him drawing briefly when I joined the department. Then I remember George Odoh. I taught him drawing, was one of the best in his class that I taught. Martin Okonkwo. Then his younger brother, another Okonkwo that came about 3 years after Martin left. Then can't remember names now. Uche Dochie, Akanimo, Umo. Well, any person I know that I know that Kelechi Okoronkwo and the rest of them. I know that when we visited Zaria sometime in the late 90s, we went there to fraternize with the students and staff under the auspices of our FAS, and they had the opportunity to join their class drawing, and it excited them how quickly they could finish their drawings and take the same subject from different angles, while their hosts were still grappling with their one drawing. It excited them that they came there to do some showing off that they had that they had arrived. But I know that it's one of the things that I think I planted in the University of Nigeria before I came. I didn't see any person that did that, and I think after I've taught the figure drawing in second year, other people that came after me when I went to teach advanced drawing and some other draftsmanship, they maintained that technique and attitude, which demonstrates to me that it was not bad after all.
George Odoh is a talented painter, graphic designer, and draftsman. Endowed with artistic ability from childhood, he probably inherited the artistic gene from his mother, who was a school teacher. His mother made illustrations in her lesson notes as part of her teaching aids. Although she never received formal training in the fine arts, her drawings were quite good. Odoh began making pencil portraits of Nigerian politicians as a primary school pupil. He also drew teaching guides for teachers. Getting into secondary school, his visual arts classes afforded him further opportunities to explore his artistic abilities. At a time, he drifted away from art and focused on the sciences, which he also had interests in. In his last year of secondary school, he began taking art classes again. After a somewhat frustrated attempt at beginning studies in mechanical engineering in university, Odoh decided to apply to study fine and applied arts at University of Nigeria, Nsukka. In his second year of university, he found himself fascinated with drawing, which Chika Okeke taught him. Given his obvious drawing talent, Okeke advised Odoh to specialize in painting. Odoh, however, preferred graphic design and hoped to refine his skills in the field. His passions eventually shifted to painting when his painting classes with Chike Anyako began. By his third year, Odoh met Chijioke Onuora, his then drawing lecturer, who closely guided him and introduced him to Seth Anku, the man who had instructed Onuora in drawing. Other notable draftsmen who helped sharpen Odoh's drawing ability were Creeds Ikwemesi and Obiora Udechukwu. Of all his drawing lecturers, the two who had the most profound influence on his drawing were Chike Anyako and Obiora Udechukwu. Uli is a nearly extinct form of body and wall painting practiced by the Igbo women of southeastern Nigeria. Uli is the Igbo word for the indigo dye derived from certain plant species and is used to make decorative drawings on the body. It also refers to the traditional murals painted by Igbo women in the four basic colors of white, yellow, reddish-brown, and black. So, at what point do the drawings of Onuora and Odoh show similarities or differences? Well, To begin with, the two artists are products of the Department of Fine and Applied Arts at University of Nigeria, Nsukka, also known as the Nsukka Art School. The Nsukka Art School is known for its incorporation of the Uli art form in art production, and the drawings of Onuora and Odoh are evidence of this. In Onuora's drawings, for instance, one can easily observe patterns and lines that are reminiscent of the Uli art form, which is mostly linear. In Odoh's drawings, we see similar patterns. Looking at the drawings of Onuora and Odoh, we can also see a shared interest for linear drawing that emphasizes positive and negative space. Inasmuch as the artist's drawings are more realistic than they are abstract, there doesn't appear to be any preoccupation with the extensive use of chiaroscuro, or light and shade, even though light and dark areas appear in their drawings. Dark areas are usually covered in flat or minimally gradated black shades, while light areas are simply left white or blank, again emphasizing positive and negative space. As far as differences are concerned, medium is a major point of divergence in the drawings of Onuora and Odoh. Onuora prefers drawing in compressed charcoal, which he got introduced to by his former drawing professor, Seth Anku. Odoh draws in graphite pencil, pastel, and pen and ink. This owes in part to his admiration of the drawing styles of Obiora Udechukwu and Chike Anyako. Another similarity between the drawings of Onuora and Odoh would be their depiction of sociopolitical issues. Being separate individuals with personal thematic interests, each artist also pursues and explores individual ideas in their drawings. Onuora, for example, has based some of his drawings on a common axiom in his town, Ife de Eboa Eboa, or things are in twos, or balanced. Onuora has also explored the concept of beauty, especially in his early drawing career. Odoh, on his part, has based many drawings on ideas and excerpts from Things Fall Apart, the award-winning and international best-selling novel by Chinua Achebe. Both Onuora and Odoh share a common influence in the person of Obiora Udechukwu, whose drawings affected the two artists in separate ways. While Seth Anku eventually became a greater influence on Onuora, Udechukwu remains a major influence on Odoh's work. The drawings of Chijioke Onuora and George Odoh are uniquely different, yet similar. While the artist's styles and media may differ, their drawings are an interesting homage to the Uli art tradition, which is being kept alive by a handful of traditional and academic artists. They are a celebration of Igbo culture, the Nsukka Art School, and the creative genius with which each artist is endowed.